All right, guys, here we are to talk about the Twilight Zone, Season 1, Episode 5, the OG stuff, the Netflix original.
As it appears on Netflix.
Not Netflix original. The black and white original, 1959.
Yeah, I always want to do the asterisks and be like, as it appears on Netflix.
Yes.
Just so it's like, because you're like, Episode 5, like, I don't know if they aired in this order or if it's listed somewhere, or if there's missing things or how this works, but Episode 5, as it appears on Netflix.
So this one, I had an actual, remember this episode.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not.
So, going into this one, I was a little more bored than usual because, I could remember the whole episode.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So, I'll let you talk more on this one, and I'll chime in.
Okay, I mean, I don't think we have to rehash the whole plot. I did write down a bunch of the stuff or whatever. This is one of those episodes. How would I phrase that? Like, certain things are like mind fucks, you know?
Yeah.
But certain things are almost like, what is it called? A para something. Parable, yeah, like a lesson, like a story that you're told to like teach you something or
But what lesson would you really argue that he learned?
So that's part of my issue with it in the end.
I don't think he learned anything. He found out rehash your life, fuck up your life.
Yes. So
I guess it's if you dwell in the past, you fuck up your future. Is kind of what you get from this.
Exactly.
He goes back in time, through no means of his own. He didn't try to go back in time. He just wanted to, and I don't think there's a problem with going back to visit your hometown. But apparently, if you live in the Twilight Zone, huge no. He goes back, and when he gets there, it's 25 years in the past, but he's him. And they say he's 35. He looks terrible for 35.
So here's the interesting. Okay, so there's so many things to, as they say on the internet, unpack with this. They say Martin Sloan, 36, ad executive, and I'm like, he looks 50. What the fuck is going on or whatever? But I feel like that's just how people look when they're like adults. And they're like in their mid to late 30s or whatever.
But
I'm in my 30s.
I was like, you're
I don't
closer
feel like
to 36,
what the fuck?
and you don't look anything like that
I know.
guy.
It's really weird to me because he even had like the hairline and everything like that.
He looked
really weird to me.
He looked easily in his late 40s.
And he didn't look like super bad, but he didn't look
just not like who I would cast in something I'm about to say is 36.
And 36-year-olds, like in modern times, they play 23-year-olds in movies and shit like that. So it's very weird to see someone like a character be 36 and look older than 36. That's crazy to me.
And I wonder, it didn't hurt the character at all. You could have said 47-year-old ad executive. It wouldn't have changed anything other than being 36 made me go, hmm?
I think he might be 36. Or they had reasons to set it in 34 and it had to be 25 years for some reason.
Maybe.
I'm not clear about why that would need to be.
But he goes back, realizes he's 25 years in the past through a series of things this drink costs the same as it did 25 years ago. What?
Yeah, so
you're gonna lose your shirt.
So especially for you having already knowing what was coming, but even for me, and again, that's something that we're seeing a lot with revisiting these old episodes is okay, I get it. Yes, you obviously went back in time. I know, but for him, he has to go through all these things to establish it and drive it home. There has to be independent confirmation of it and double checking of it.
But what's
weird
is his first interaction with a person is that soda jerk, and he's like, oh, I remember when my first name, Mr. White used to own this place.
Mr. Wilson
used to own this place. He'd sit in his old chair and he'd swivel the blah blah. You'd think the guy would be he's still alive. He's right there.
I know.
There was no reason to not say that because it wasn't some dubious plot which you might have thought it was or something the first time running through.
Right.
So that was weird.
No, there was no reason not to do that, and that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, where they then follow the soda jerk all the way over to talk to Mr. Wilson, who then calls him Mr. Wilson. I hope it's Mr. Wilson. I didn't fucking know.
Whatever it is. It's not relevant to the plot.
All just for the benefit of the audience, but then the episode goes on to have 2 or 3 more things where we have to make it clear to the audience that he's gone back in time. No, that's him as a kid. No, it's really him as a kid. No, it's really him as a kid. They have to go so hard and
But it doesn't say,
if
someone just said, oh, I remember when Lee used to live here. Aside from the fact that I'd be like, he still does.
Yeah.
I'd later go, there was some dude who said thought you were dead. Isn't that weird? Something. If I'm especially encountering you a second later.
Yep.
So that was weird. Opie's in this one. That's cool. From Mayberry himself.
Is that other kid?
The younger kid in the very beginning that runs back to his house and goes, I know, Jada Jada, you're not Jada Jada.
Yeah.
That, I can't remember his fucking real name now. Ron Howard.
I've never seen that shit, so I did not.
You never watched
recognize
Andy
him.
Griffith?
Fuck no, that shit sucks.
Oh, I love that show.
Oh, it's garbage.
It's great.
It's boring, horrible.
Me and
garbage.
Grandma would watch that like every day.
If I was a grandma, I'd watch it.
It's pretty good. It holds up. Don Knotts, funny guy. Matlock.
I mean, the thing with the bullet's fine, but like besides that, I could like that was like fall asleep territory. I could never get.
Oh
through
no,
an
I was
episode.
riveted.
Ugh.
But yes, I'm like that's charming. He's in this. Like missed the mark where they could have had him play the younger him, but they didn't do that because he
Okay.
wasn't famous then, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. The other kid looked a little more like it could be him as a younger kid.
No one looks like
than
him.
that
He's
kid.
80 years old.
Oh, looks like this like Mad Men style ad executive dude.
Yeah. But
So,
you know,
okay,
ironically,
so like carved his name into the thing. It's a 1934 Roadster, brand new. Roadster, brand new. I have to go harass my parents. I really like.
I love that car though. With that, what do they call it?
Oh.
A rumble seat? What is that thing called?
Yeah, I totally ignore that part because I don't give a fuck about
Those are
cars.
so cool, and they're so illegal now.
Like the weird seat in the back
Yeah.
thing. I wasn't even clear what that was. I'm like,
So
are you sitting in the trunk? Are you an idiot?
It folds up into
Yeah.
seats. Some of them would face this way, some of them face that way. But in any direction, very cool.
Death trap, yeah.
Super cool. Just folds away.
I really liked the line like, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to get in trouble. But if you hang around here, there might be trouble. Or whatever. I like that dude. I like the,
That's
I
like
him.
like old man sentiment, like back in the day way of saying things.
No, that like something about that. That's what I'm really here for, is mining those old little nuggets
the
and like,
gems.
yeah, the little gems of the way people used to phrase stuff.
Maybe
and
not
the way
today,
used to
maybe
people
not
say
tomorrow, but forever and for the rest of your life.
That's a fucking cliche thing, but if you had never heard that before and you say and you randomly turned on Casablanca, you'd be like, man, people.
No, it's a good line.
People used to fucking think before they talk. That's awesome.
There's a reason
This is
people
written.
repeat that. It's because it's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, it's so cliche. I think like the Beetlejuice cartoon references that. and
Everything
stuff like
does
that,
now,
so
yeah.
It's like you can't say.
It's in every other Animaniacs episode.
It's in every animated episode.
That's how they end.
Tiny Toon Adventures was big fan of that.
But super ironic that, like, the idea that him going back in time does cause him to be injured and give him an injury that he did not have in the beginning episode. So
Right.
literally going back caused this injury.
So
it
that's
wasn't
the
like
weird
you
part,
saw
yeah.
him limping and you find out, oh, you're the reason I'm the reason I limp.
Right.
He gains a limp, which I don't know how I feel about. Either that's way better or it's far worse. Because A, you are able to change your past, so that's a thing. He could have been like, Google, and just died.
Bye, Google.
Because, like, once you know you are, like, he found out he's in the past, and the way he approached his parents was in the weirdest serial killer way. Like, he didn't try to be like, I know this is crazy. I'm going to show you my identification.
Don't
I
you
can
say it's
answer any
me?
questions."
It's your son. I'm your son.
Mom,
Ma.
it's me. Mom. Like, that's...
Pop,
no,
Ma.
Who's going to believe that?
Yeah.
And, like, I've often thought, like, if I were in that scenario, what are the things I would say that would make me believe I'm me?
Right.
And nowadays, it's much harder. I think then you could have maybe pulled things off. But now it's like, all right, you hacked my account, you fished my shit, blah, blah, blah. You'd have to think about things that only you know with
Stole
somebody
my
else.
identity, yeah. And he was trying that. He was like, we used to go summers for here. We used to do this. We used to do that. Blah, blah, blah.
But all
It's
those you could still watch.
Of course.
So right now, you're traveled back in time to like I'm trying to think of like what is a time that makes sense, because you can't go back 25 years because that's like what? But like what is something you
that
would
kid was
tell
pretty
like old you to?
Young me.
Yeah.
Just stuff that I never told anyone. Just like ideas for things that I had and all that stuff. And then I would be like, wait, when did I have that like with? Because like you, like me, and like other cool people or whatever, like you had a whole world in your head or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like a boring dumb thing where you're like, well, lots of people like mushrooms. It would be like
like you sing a song you
Yeah,
wrote.
it'd be like this, like,
Wait a
crazy-
minute, how did you know that song?
Because there were things where like I like created it in my head as a kid, and then
Cultivated over time.
like and it like grew as like part of a thing, but then at some point realized, no, that's really derivative and dumb, and I should never tell anyone about that, because it's just like, oh, this one has ice and this one has fire and all that thing. Like, oh, wait a minute, everything's that. Don't fucking whatever. But there was a theme song and fucking characters and all that shit, so like I could be like this, and I'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't have known that. I never would have told anyone that, but either way, it still implies that I'm from the future.
Yeah, but either way, it would be the future.
I would
'cause, like,
hope, right? Because
like,
otherwise, I'd be like,
if it came out and it's a hit cartoon, it's still the future.
I was gonna say, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would prove that you are you, but it would prove you're from the future.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way of. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
it doesn't quite fit, but that's really the only way. Because otherwise, he's otherwise I'm just telling younger me shit that I don't know yet. So it's like, well, yeah, I guess, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to do that thing that they do sometimes where you travel back in time to right before something happens.
Yeah,
and
you
you go,
can say the lottery number's going to be this.
yeah, or you're like, no,
Almost
bitch,
that.
tomorrow. Pick up the newspaper. Read it to me. Like, what does it say? Okay, blah, blah. And then I'm saying it at the same time as you, and it's like, what? How does he know that? Okay, go to page 23. Third word down. Second line. It's the word this. It's the word excellent. What? How did you do that? Or whatever. That sort of thing.
Yeah, science.
I don't know.
That could be fun. We should do that. Go back in time.
Go back in time? Yeah.
Especially if you can actually change the future the way this guy did with.
So, I don't know if you saw Looper.
I did not. I
Okay.
have it, but never saw it.
So, but you're aware of like the premise.
I know the
or
premise.
whatever.
Yeah.
So there's time travel involved.
Yes.
So without spoiling anything, like when you talk to like you from the past, you as you're saying it are like remembering you telling yourself that now. It
Huh.
like super fucks with you. It's like horrible. Like it's very difficult to like communicate with yourself.
Interesting.
Because how are you saying it, or are you just, but you're like remembering 20 years ago when someone said this to you, but now you're the one saying it. So are you, are you even choosing what you say? It's just like, it like explodes in your brain. Because you remembered it later now that you've said it, because that was you. What? So like whenever there's time travel, I start thinking about all that shit. This was not meant to be this Twilight Zone here was not meant to touch upon any of that crazy.
No, that's
shit.
why this exists in like an outside realm, because he doesn't remember like this happening. He wasn't
exactly.
Like, oh,
this is not
because
and it's certainly not simultaneous.
you know
and
it's not
certainly
simultaneous
thing,
because
yes.
he didn't have a limp, so you know it's happening for the first time.
So I thought okay.
And the weird thing is that he felt the pain when
instantly,
it happened.
Exactly. So if he feels the pain, there's so many. We could do a whole 40-minute expose on this, but
And you think he broke his arm the way he falls, and he's like, my leg.
Oh yeah. That was weird. It was hard because they couldn't show anything at all for some reason, right?
But it looks like even the old him was like, and like grabs his arm.
It looked like he like fell down in a weird way though. It was fine with the whatever, but like so if he feels the pain instantly, he should also instantly, coalesce the changes that he's making into his now adult person, right? Because if that's not him until he goes back to the present, he shouldn't feel the pain yet or have the limp yet or whatever. So what the fuck's going on? That's crazy to me. But more importantly, I was hoping that. So I wrote down like no limp, and then it's like okay, he has a limp. Because at first he like hops onto the merry-go-round and appears to not have a limp.
Yeah, no.
But then later has a very pronounced limp, and I'm
exactly.
like, okay, I don't know what's going on here exactly. Because he felt the pain,
Ripples through time,
but didn't have the limp yet. That might just be sloppiness. I was hoping that limp and that experience would have changed his life, and that now
and he
he's
wasn't
different.
an ad executive anymore.
Right. But it turns out, because like you would think things would be different if a stranger showed up and chased you around a merry-go-round and you were maimed for life, and you would think that would
change something.
That would change something. But it turns out he just limps now, so it did change one thing at least, and everything else is still exactly the same. And I feel like so like the point of all that is that the lesson is getting sort of lost and muddled by this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if, like, him fucking up his own leg in the past for the future is supposed to tell us something about how you shouldn't revisit the past or whatever, like, even just the kid almost dying, and then him being like, oh, shit, and then the dad saying, like, that's his summer. Let him have it. You have your own summers in the future to worry about.
Let him have it with a cast.
Yeah. Right, that whole thing. And you're like, oh, fuck, okay. Like that kind of makes the point to me. Leaving him with the limp is like this weird punishment for wanting to go back to the past.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me if you're talking,
Do you think, how different do you think your life would be, though, if you had a limp and, like, one summer of, like, 2 months in a cast?
Oh well, I don't know. What are you playing devil's advocate for not being any
No, I think my life like potentially could be very different.
Oh, okay.
Because I
the way
would
you said it,
probably
it sounded like, well, what the fuck do you think's gonna happen? And I'm like,
well,
what?
no, but we're also different people.
Yeah.
So like, for a person who's like an ad executive, they might not have done a lot of things outside that might have hindered anything. Like I might have a whole different group of friends. Like my whole life could be totally different with a limp.
Well, I mean, and whether or not you even go outside, like. My point would be that, like, even if practically speaking that shouldn't really affect too many things, in your life, it would affect things in your life.
Yeah, no, I think it would.
Even, like, subconsciously, it might make you work harder. You might be, like, the president of the company instead of just an executive. Yeah. I don't know. But it should have some effect regardless, right? You should either want to hide, like someone where I work has, like, that hip thing where it's, like, rotting slowly or whatever. and like I haven't talked to him about it, but it like puts it, it like puts it in my mind every now and then, where like sometimes it's like, oh yeah, there's this cool lunch place, and it's like, oh yeah, but that's probably very far for Peter. Like the world is like smaller for him,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he kind of like limps around, and he's fine. It's not that big of a deal, and he's debating getting the surgery. Is it worth it? I don't know, or whatever. He had something. Point is, yes, it's all these little subtle things, or maybe you just see yourself differently and it changes how you interact with people, or
Sure.
changes your whatever. And it could go either way. Either you could retreat into like, oh, I'm this broken person, or you could be like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna limp right over there and smack you in the face and take it because it's mine or whatever, right?
No, I could see it.
And they kind of left that as like he's limp now. Like,
Yeah, no, it didn't really have a moral for me other than, like, don't relive the past.
don't try to go recapture the past when things were good, otherwise you're gonna limp.
But I feel like it would have been a better moral if he was, like, dwelling in his past and, like, oh, my glory days, if only I blah, blah. But he didn't seem like he was doing that. He seemed like he was successful. He just, like, I just thought I want to take a trip. I want to visit my hometown. I think that's something everyone's done ever.
No, and they frame it up like, if there's one more board meeting or, like, one more call with, an emergency, I would just, I jumped out that window. So I'm just going to go back to where things are quiet and things are happy or whatever. And honestly, like, this story has been told without the paranormal, where you go back to your old town and you see how everything's different, but how, like, the kids are still the same, but now the merry-go-round's torn down, and now this costs more, and you're like, well, I guess everything changes and everything stays the same, and now these kids are having their summer, and this looks like shit to me now, but they're going to look back on this and think it's so good. Like, there's all these, this is a very common theme in, like, human literature and art and all that stuff.
I thought it was interesting. 25 years rose the price of a milkshake 25 cents. So it went up a penny a year.
It went up 3.5.
I'm sorry, not a penny a year. That would be 15 years. Wait, what did I say it was? No, 25 cents. Yeah. 35 cents from 10 cents.
From 10 to 35.
Yeah.
And that's like 250% increase or whatever. That's like a whole thing.
So this takes place in 1959.
Yeah.
So if you multiply that out though, now we're 2017. Our milkshakes are like $6.
I know.
Or more.
It's not a linear curve per year or whatever.
Yeah.
I like how he gives the guy $1 and he's like, that's $1 or whatever. And like not until you saw like the other price of the milkshake did it really like snap into focus of how much that was. That's like giving someone a like $20 bill for that $6 milkshake.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit, dude. And it's like, I'm rich as fuck. Fuck you.
Yeah, and he did pull out like a wad.
Did you notice that? Yes. I noticed that.
Like when he paid for the car, he gave the guy X amount of dollars.
He just threw money
and then
at
just
him.
Gave him more dollars.
And like, here's a little extra. Yeah, exactly. I liked that.
I thought it was funny too. The soda jerk just put that dollar in his pocket.
No, he's like, fuck you. This is my dollar.
He's like, nah, that 10 cents that thing cost, we ain't paying that.
Yeah, I think that's the reason this was like I'm going to call this episode, generally speaking, kind of a disappointment.
Agreed
Okay.
Completely.
But, like, I think it's because I love the time travel stuff so much, and even that little detail, like you're saying, like he puts the buck in his pocket. Like, if this was Back to the Future 8 or something like that, that buck would have been used for something and would have changed it, and then when he came back to the present, that guy would have owned a whole chain of, like, it would have been this whole ripple through time, something interesting.
Yeah,
or whatever
I like the Twilight Zone episodes where they're more paranormal or creepy or weird, like a bigger twist. The twist on this didn't seem like enough. I don't want to learn something. I want things to be fucked up.
This is kind of similar to like the last one where it's like something crazy happens. Why? Because someone wished really hard or like wanted it or something?
Yeah, hard to say.
And then, but in the Twilight Zone, you can get what you wish for. Some weird excuse for like, why does this crazy thing happen? And then where do you end up? I don't know, like, and I guess I shouldn't do the thing. Like, if I'm ever in the past, don't chase myself on a merry-go-round.
You're also, though, not in the Twilight Zone as far as you know. But how do you get into the Twilight Zone?
I think we're all near the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. All right. You have anything else to say about this episode?
I think that's okay. I mean, like we're saying, Rod Serling kind of sums it up. Like, like now he'll like recognize that fleeting, errant ghost of a wish of a man who does not want to go old. Grow old. Who wants to return to the calliope of his youth and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like. I guess that's the moral, but again, I'm not sure why being punished with a bum leg is, like, demonstrative of that. I think it really doesn't fit and is weird.
Well, stools are the devil, and now he can't associate with them.
One day at a time.
All right, guys, until next time, don't die in a fire. This was episode 5 of The Twilight Zone. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.